Ever know what to do, but struggle to do it? Doing first and thinking later is what using healthy strategies to deal with feelings of sadness is all about. The idea is putting an action first so that we don't have to wait to feel motivated. This thought process counters avoidance, the behaviors that we do that keep us from feeling our unpleasant emotions or keep us from experiencing situations that might be painful. We're not trying to avoid unpleasant experiences. We're trying to use productive actions to help us work through them. For example, when you want to go on a walk, you can have two choices. You can put on your shoes before you think too much about it and head out the door. Or you think about putting on your shoes, but instead you check a text message, end up scrolling on social media, and never go on your walk. When you do first and think later, you can improve your mood by changing your behavior. Let's walk through an activity together by answering a few questions. Think about something that recently didn't go so great. Maybe you didn't complete any of the tasks you needed to do the day before. Think about how you reacted and what you did in that situation. You may have acknowledged that there was a lot to do, but you sat in the procrastination. Did that reaction do any of the following? Helped you avoid the situation? Distracted you from the situation? Numbed your feelings about the situation? Controlled your emotions to help you not feel worse? Now, how could you have used the do first, think later practice instead? Instead of overthinking your to-do list, you could start with the simpler tasks on the list to get your momentum going, reduce your stress, and improve your mood.
We can't avoid feelings of anxiety completely, but we can identify the sequence of events that lead to them by observing snowballing reactions. For example, let's say I'm in the library cramming for a test that I don't feel prepared for, and I start with a not so great thought. I'm 100% going to fail. If I don't pause and notice my reactions to this thought, here's what might happen. I stay up studying way later than I should and keep missing questions because I'm so tired. I look up what grade I need to make in order to pass, and it feels impossible, so I start sweating. I ignore my body's need for food and skip dinner or any snacks and instead drink something caffeinated. I scroll on social media for a while to avoid feeling what I'm feeling. I scroll so long I completely lose focus and have to go back to the sections I can't remember. I start to have shortness of breath and tell myself I'm definitely not going to pass. I call my mom crying to tell her the money for her tuition payment was a mistake. Whoa, that was a lot. I'm getting nervous just watching that. But let's rewind. What if I noticed that first thought earlier in the process? I'm 100% going to fail, but I recognize this thought as a thinking trap. How do I know I'm going to fail? What evidence do I have to support that thought? I take a break to calm myself down with one of the meditations on the Timely Care app. I center myself and eat a snack with ingredients from 3 different food groups. I come back to my desk, accept that I'm nervous, but remind myself that I can't predict the future. I study for an hour or so until I feel as confident as I can, then head to sleep for some much needed rest, ready to do my best on the exam. You see how I started at the same thought but approached it from two very different directions? The more we take the time to identify our anxious thoughts and feelings, the easier it will be for us to know how and when to use anxiety-reducing strategies in the moment. Keep going with the self-care for anxiety journey to learn some more of these strategies.
Sleep duration and sleep quality are controlled by three processes: sleep need, sleep clock, and sleep disruptors. Sleep need refers to our body's need for sleep based on how long we've been awake. It's pretty simple. As your day progresses, your sleepiness increases and your wakefulness decreases. The point where sleepiness and wakefulness intersect is typically when sleep is most likely to occur. Noticing when you are sleepy enough, or if your sleep need is happening too late at night, will help you identify how to balance wakefulness with sleepiness. Our sleep clock is influenced by our internal temperature and the light we're exposed to. Our internal temperature changes throughout a 24-hour period. It drops when sleeping begins and starts to rise as we wake up. Exposure to light or darkness is also a signal to our body that it's time to sleep or that it's time to be awake. Since body temperature and light are major influencers of our sleep clock, creating a cool, dark space can help with falling and staying asleep. Sleep disruptors are the thoughts and behaviors that can interrupt our sleep in some way. For example, anticipating something big happening the next day can make it harder to fall asleep. Behaviors like drinking alcohol, caffeine, or taking a nap during the day can make it harder to fall and stay asleep throughout the night. There are also medical or mental health conditions that can contribute to interrupted sleep. You can always talk to a healthcare professional if this is something you experience. How these three processes work impact whether we get restful, quality sleep or experience persistent sleep difficulties. In the Self-Care for Sleep journey, you'll learn tips on how to get all three of them to work together in harmony.
Resilience Journey's main character, Ivy, is feeling really overwhelmed with their academics. They've identified that they value academics, but knowing this value doesn't make it any easier to get over challenges like failing an exam or missing a homework assignment. Ivy struggles with judging themselves and feeling unprepared or unworthy to be at the school. Let me just say, I've been there. One great way to work towards building resilience is by setting goals to help us move through our struggles in a manageable way. When making a goal, make sure to make it SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. You can progress your goals by using a goal ladder. You can make huge progress by breaking up your big goal into manageable, smaller pieces. Think of these pieces as sub-goals. Each rung on the ladder represents a sub-goal that allows you to get one step closer to your big goal at the top. Ivy's big goal is practice mindfulness consistently for 1 month to help me feel more prepared for the challenges I face in school. As a result, I'll be able to notice when I'm judging my thoughts and feelings and respond with more compassion. So the rungs that lead up to that goal on the ladder could be: Week 1. Do one thing that helps me relax once a week. For me, it's watching an episode of a favorite show I've probably already rewatched 10 times. Week 2. Create a win folder where I can keep notes filled with compliments I've received, special cards, projects I'm proud of, etc. I'll add a weekly win to this folder. This could be an encouraging text I get from a friend or completing a presentation I was nervous about. Week 3. Do a 7-minute morning meditation every other day for the rest of the month. Week 4. Journal 3 things I'm grateful for to stay present and practice gratitude every day for the rest of the month. Do you see how those got progressively bigger in both time commitment and effort? As you go up the ladder, look at the rungs as an addition to your routine. So once you've completed week 1, keep going for the next 3 weeks to advance to your next new goal. Try using a goal ladder to help you achieve your big goals. Before you know it, you'll have built up your resilience skills.
You've probably heard the term mindfulness thrown around here and there. Maybe you heard it in a yoga class or saw it on a social media post. We're here to explain that mindfulness is more than a buzzword, fad, or one-time activity. When we practice mindfulness, we're practicing awareness of our thoughts, feelings, and environment. Mindfulness helps us by creating space between our thoughts and our actions. It can be intentionally woven in to the small moments of our everyday lives. So what can mindfulness do for a college student trying to figure it all out? With mindfulness, you can experience being more present in the moment, even if you're feeling emotionally burnt out. Increased awareness of what you're thinking, feeling, and experiencing, allowing you to step back a little and get some perspective. Less judgment of your thoughts and feelings. More self-compassion, especially when things don't go your way. Being more in touch with your values and what matters most to you. Learn how to practice mindfulness through multiple tools throughout this journey. Timely Care is here to guide you through the ups, downs, and in-betweens.
all day, every day, we're doing things. Like eating, sleeping, walking, learning. When we take some of these actions, we're making choices. Some of the choices we can act upon can be useful and move us toward a better life. Those are called toward moves. But other things we can do move us away from the life we want. Those are called away moves. When life is going really well and we're not feeling super challenged, it's easy to make a toward move. But when life starts to get tougher, it can be our default to focus on the difficulty we're experiencing and in turn make more away moves. This is so normal. But when it starts to happen a ton, it can become a problem. For example, as a college student, we might face a choice point on a Friday night. Let's say up to the end of that week, I've been super exhausted and haven't gotten much sleep because I've been prioritizing my academics and extracurriculars over my need for health and nutrition. I am just not feeling charged. I'm at a choice point. I could go out with my friends with the benefit that I might not get FOMO, but I will be losing out on sleep and I'm unsure if I'll feel worse than I already do. I could only go out for a little bit and make sure I'm home by midnight, but I'd still be pushing through the exhaustion. I'm at a choice point, a moment in time where I have the agency to choose a path more in line with my values. So, there is another move available to me. I could stay in. I could watch my comfort movie while eating a tasty and fulfilling meal and head to bed early and feel refreshed the next day. My friends will still be my friends in the morning, and I will have made the right decision for my health and well-being. Next time you're at a choice point, try to identify the toward move and the away move that you're in between. What move will impact your life in an intentional way that's more in line with your values, even just a little bit?
Relationships are interpersonal bonds where the people involved have some degree of influence on each other's thoughts, feelings, and actions. Boundaries are important to help us maintain a sense of identity as an individual. Figuring out our boundaries starts by examining our own value systems. The next step is to communicate in a clear and healthy manner to reduce miscommunications and misinterpretations. Now, that sounds so simple, but how many times have we found ourselves saying, they should have known? Well, should they have known? Did we actually communicate ourselves clearly to that other individual? When we find ourselves communicating in a much more intentional and mindful fashion to our friends, our family members, and our partners, we will find that our conversations become that much more meaningful. Some might interpret setting boundaries as being divisive in relationships. Here's my boundary. You stay over there, I'll stay over here. But that's not actually the case. If we maintain healthy boundaries, that can actually promote a sense of trust and safety that can actually become connection points in a relationship and help that relationship grow stronger. So here's a real-life example of why these principles are so important. A student I was working with felt that their partner was moving too fast with intimacy in their relationship. Now, out of fear that if they weren't intimate, that they might lose this relationship and be alone, they allowed fear rather than their values to drive their decision making. And they allowed their boundaries to be crossed. Eventually, through work with professionals and some support, they realized that their boundaries were no longer aligned with their value system. They then realigned their boundaries to match up with their values, and they ultimately decided that this relationship was not healthy for them and decided to end it. Mutual respect and support starts with consent, meaning making sure that everyone involved in the relationship has a say in the decision making. All in all, communication, boundaries, values, and consent can come together to help build healthy relationships.
Anxiety is an emotion everyone experiences in their life. You've probably used anxiety in common conversation when you're feeling nervous or fearful about the future. As a college student, you might worry about your academics, relationship, future career, finances. It's important to know that all of this is so normal. But when that worry becomes uncontrollable and impacts things that are important to you, it is possible that you could be experiencing an anxiety disorder. Common symptoms you might experience are persistent restlessness, feeling on edge, being easily fatigued, difficulty concentrating or your mind going blank, irritability, muscle tension, and sleep difficulties. Anxiety can vary when it comes to severity and frequency, from mild to severe and from rare to frequent. If you've used our Self-Care for Stress journey, you may have learned that sometimes stress can be a productive driving force, and other times it can be a problem when we experience it out of proportion. Anxiety works like that too. A moderate level of anxiety can help performance. Like, let's say a bike is coming towards you when you're crossing the road and your fear signals you to move out of the way. That's a response in proportion to what you've just experienced. But on the other end of the spectrum, when our anxiety gets out of proportion, it can impact the way we live our lives. For example, let's say you're nervous about a test. Normal, right? But if that fear stops you from going to class because you feel like you can't take the test, your anxious feelings could be getting in the way of your academic goals. This severity isn't something that we can control, but it's something that we can notice and respond to. Keep going with the Self-Care for Anxiety journey to learn strategies like breaking the cycle by reframing thoughts from a more constructive lens, bringing you to a calmer place. And remember, if you need to talk to a professional, you can go to the Home tab and select Get Care. If you'd like to connect with your peers, go to the Community tab. We're here to help.
There's an important distinction between reacting and responding to stress. When you react, you're meeting stress with an instinctive action. When you respond, you're making a conscious, mindful choice to move forward in a specific way. Let's say you sleep through a class that counts attendance as a part of your grade. You wake up feeling completely overwhelmed because you feel the need for more sleep, but you also need to do well in this class. You've got two options. You could react. You jump out of bed. You panic, immediately blaming and shaming yourself for being so careless. You pace around the room because you can't miss a class or else you'll be behind. You run out of the house without eating or showering because you need to get there as quickly as possible. You forget to check what time office hours are and just miss your professor. You start to feel helpless and believe you can't do anything right. The feelings of stress and embarrassment continue to grow throughout the rest of your day. By that evening, when you're trying to do homework or spend time with friends, you find yourself too overwhelmed to think or enjoy. Or you could respond. Take a second. Consciously connect to your body and breath. What are you feeling right now? What physical sensations are coming up? What are your thoughts telling you? Take a second to observe all of them and let them roll over you. Don't try to stop them, just feel. It's okay to notice a sinking feeling. It makes sense to feel stressed about something that's important to you, like grades. Accept that you needed those extra hours of sleep, and that if you don't set an alarm or take other action, the situation could happen again. Get ready. Address your physical needs, like brushing your teeth. Plan next steps. You've slept through the class. That's out of your control now. But you still have other options to consider. You can email your professor to apologize, explain, and ask if there's any opportunity to make up for the loss of points. Text a classmate for the notes so you don't fall behind. Go to office hours with your professor to have a calm, in-person conversation. If you've tried and still can't make up the points, or even if you haven't tried at all, accept that. Then, figure out what needs to happen for the rest of the semester to meet your goals. Do you see how much more concrete everything is when you start off by connecting to your body, thoughts, and feelings? In moments of stress, your mind will continue to do what it's built to do, which is producing thoughts and letting them wander. So, instead of being ashamed or angry about this, let's acknowledge it. Normalize it. Practice observing these thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations, and then find ways to accept all of it before moving on to a solution. Keep going with the Self-Care for Stress journey to learn more tangible strategies to manage your stress.
There's no one-way-fits-all approach to healthy eating, and that's because healthy eating is influenced by things like our culture, what we like to eat, our activity level, and what foods are available where we live. Now, we don't believe in diets, and we don't promote restrictive mindsets. We respect all body shapes and sizes and understand that healthy eating is not about hitting a specific number on the scale. Healthy eating is about eating foods that will enhance your health, your happiness, and well-being. Healthy eating is about eating mindfully so that we can satisfy our hunger and our nutritional needs versus mindlessly eating. And it's about eating nutritionally dense foods to make the most out of each meal and each snack. So here's a real-life example. I was working with a student who noticed that on days that they either skip their breakfast or just mindlessly scarf down a bag of chips while running to class, On those days, they noticed they had no energy, they couldn't focus in school, and they just did not feel prepared to take on the stress of the day. Once they made a few healthy changes and started eating a balanced, nutritious breakfast each morning, they felt like they had more energy, they could focus at school, and just had a higher capacity to deal with stress each day. Healthy eating is linked to living a longer life, reducing the risk of illnesses, and can help manage certain chronic diseases. Now, we get it. There are often barriers and obstacles to eating healthy at college, but we know it is possible. We can help you take simple steps to make a big impact on your energy level, your health, your well-being by making some healthy changes.
Do you ever find yourself going through the motions, unsure of what you're doing and why? Some people have trouble finding their purpose, and that's okay. Our chaotic world doesn't make it easy for us to stop and break out the map to figure out where we are or ask for directions to get on our way. But finding your why increases your well-being. It's that why that creates the unique directions to lead you on a path that feels right to you. You might find your why through helping others or giving back to your community, finding a mission or cause you're passionate about, storytelling through writing, music, or performing, working with a team to learn new skills or achieve big goals through sports or clubs. Remember Ivy? They found their why in academics. They want to keep learning so that they can become a teacher. Many of their struggles relate to their academic performance, but succeeding in something they're passionate about motivates them to grow from these challenges, even if it takes some time to actually bounce back. When you have a clear understanding of your why, you increase your potential to rely on your resilience through tough times. Look at the athletes, artists, or intellectuals in your life you look up to. What was their why? Not their comeback, not their greatest hits. What was their purpose to keep pushing forward? We know Michael Jordan as a 6-time NBA title-holding MVP, but he didn't start out with all of those wins. MJ didn't even earn a spot in his high school varsity basketball team, which he considers one of the toughest moments of his career. But MJ loved basketball. It was his connection to his brother and his father, and without the encouragement and advice from his mother, he wouldn't have been so determined to make it onto varsity the next year. The rest is history. So look inward and find your why. It'll serve as your motivation the next time you find yourself facing an obstacle.